Buck, we talked about New York City starting to get a little bit more sane in terms of the rules that they are putting in place. One of New York City's most famous residents, however, relating to COVID, that is, the rules that they're changing, Howard Stern, is furious. And I just can't get over the fact that Howard Stern, who is one of the most rebellious radio people of all time, and for those of you out there listening, I think it's fair to say that Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern are the two most iconic radio people by far in the last 50 years, Buck. I mean, I don't even know who else would be in that category alongside of those two guys. And we're obviously honored to be sitting in the chair alongside where Rush and talking to all of you, where many of you have spent decades listening to him. But a lot of people have also spent decades listening to Howard Stern. And of anyone in the media, I'm not sure that anyone is crazier, Buck, than Howard Stern. Here he is on his show complaining about the mask mandate being lifted in New York City and saying the wackos are winning. Listen to this.
And you get all these wackos with their anti-mask, anti-vaccine. The reason they've lifted these mask mandates is because we gave in to this small minority of people who are completely out of their mind, who think masks are some sort of prison sentence and their freedoms are being taken away.
The government is tired of fighting with people who want to get sick and die.
Yeah, there's so many wackos. I miss the old Republican Party. It used to be nice to have a two-party system. Now it's wackos versus, Democrats.
He sounds like a neurotic little old cat lady, honestly. Like, this is absurd. You know, he sounds like someone who's always calling the police because a neighbor went by on a skateboard. Like, what is he even talking about?
Howard Stern is not an unintelligent person, and he's also not someone who is opposed to sometimes being on an island with an opinion that is not shared by the majority of people. I think it's such a fascinating, instructive window into the psychology of some people, Buck. I know that Stern was a germaphobe and had high levels of anxiety surrounding germs in general, even before COVID. And to your point, Buck, I believe what we have done is the exact opposite of what Stern is arguing here. I think we've allowed a small minority of anxiety-ridden germaphobes to dictate what our national policy has been. And those people are so fear-laden that they won't even look at the data and recognize that masks make no sense. Now, every single day we gain a few people, and I know we were talking about off the air, the Politico report, because they polled parents. There's still a lot of parents, though, that believe that their kids need to be in a mask.
So it's multifaceted. The Fauciite mask madness, the core, the base, the vanguard, the shock troops of double masking are people who are truly terrified. And for them, I've said for a long time, this is an anxiety napkin. This has become, and you've said, it's like you have said kids with security blankets, right? This is an adult version of a facial security blanket. It's, I wear my mask so I'm safe. Somehow I'm still safe when I pull my mask down to eat and drink and do other things or to fix it or whatever, because the virus goes, oh, hold on, he called a timeout. So I'm not going to freely circulate in the air anymore. Never mind the fact that you actually look at the size, the microns that represent a virus versus the mesh of most of the cloth masks that we've been wearing. And people have been pointing out from the very beginning, the virus actually easily passes through both the air passage above and below the mask, as well as, this part of it I say I wasn't even as into in the beginning, but as well as through some of these masks. So here you have those people, but you also have the political affiliation component of it, Clay, which I think that became certainly the bigger aspect of it, and now it lingers because there are a lot of people for whom it's a symbol of their adherence to the Democrat norm and of their defiance of the evil red state Trumpers who want them to be able to breathe air. I mean, think about what this argument really boils down to. You and I sit here telling people it's okay. Just breathe normally again. You can do it. It's actually fine. It really makes no difference. You should just go about your life breathing as human beings have for all of human history. And the left says, no, that's crazy. I want to be uncomfortable and breathe through a piece of cloth all day because that makes me feel better about myself. Howard Stern is clearly in that category. He also, to your point, doesn't know anything about what the actual data shows, not only on masking, but even on vaccine efficacy and everything else, but he doesn't care.
And this ties in with the Politico poll that we were talking about before the show. Sorry, it's a Harvard poll. I'm reading from the Politico article about it. This is interesting. 40% of parents of school-age children believe that masking harmed their children's overall school experience. I can't believe it's only 40%, by the way. But this is the interesting part, Buck. Only 11% said it helped. So if you are a parent of a school-age child, and certainly I'm in that camp right now, I've got 3 school-age kids, I see parents every single day making like a light bulb moment where they recognize the masking didn't make sense. And nearly half of parents said masks made no difference. Now, that's disappointing that it's only half, basically, of parents saying masks made no difference. But I take away when 4 in 10 say it harmed their kids' school experience and only 11% said it helped. This matters because the Fauciites, Buck, based on the numbers going up in Europe, are already starting to make arguments that they may need to bring back masks on kids in schools and masks in general.
We got to get those. Well, what does he say to Leonardo DiCaprio in Wolf of Wall Street? Those are rookie numbers. We got to get those numbers up.
Those numbers. Yeah,
we got to get
that
those numbers
up. Matthew McConaughey and Leonardo DiCaprio scene.
Apparently, McConaughey used to do that just to get himself psyched up before scenes.
Doesn't
sometimes
surprise me at all.
And Scorsese saw it and was like, "No, do that in the scene." Anyway. So, yeah, those are rookie numbers. 40% say it harmed their kids. No. It needs to be 80%. It needs to be only the 20% of wacko libs who think that we can't define a woman and they should double mask alone in the shower just to be safe from the virus. It has to be down to that sliver of the American electorate before we could actually stop the pressure campaign here, Clay, because they were wrong. They're wrong all along. You'll notice. Does anyone? This is interesting. I was thinking about this the other day. I was gonna text you this. When was the last time a blue check came after you on any of this stuff?
It's been a while.
Early on, what did you say?
I said it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's a
right?
great point. Yeah.
Early on, I had blue checks. Why are you so? You don't care if old people die and you're evil and everything else. Because I was saying things like maybe lockdowns. Which now we see also increased alcoholism deaths, or alcohol-related deaths, I should say, by 25%. Tens of thousands of people. I mean, mostly, in their prime, earning and living years, raising families. Tens of thousands of people dying. Anyway, couldn't talk about that. Couldn't talk about the missed cancer screenings. Couldn't talk about any of these things, or you're a bad person. I haven't had a blue check want to throw down with me over this stuff in at least 3 or 4 months now. It
is interesting, Buck. I will say, my audience, when any of those blue checks come after me and I just kind of put it out, I mean, my audience is our audience, they're really funny, but they are also vicious in destroying the mask paparazzi out there who are the blue checks who come after you all the time. And so I think a lot of those guys are scared. I think that, one of the great lessons that you learn is that Twitter gives these blue checks to anybody. And a lot of those guys and girls don't have an audience. And so they just run around popping off all day, and there's nobody actually that supports anything that they're saying. And then they step into the dojo, so to speak, into the Thunderdome, and they were not anticipating the blowback that they get. So I appreciate all of you who've got Buck and mine's back at Clay Travis, at Buck Sexton out there for the arguments that we're making. I thought, Buck, that yesterday's conversation about Leah Thomas in the locker room and the male genitalia and all that stuff, I thought somebody would step up and try to fight over that. Zero. Not one person is even still trying to defend that Leah Thomas story, even when we're aggressively pointing out the locker room aspects.
I got dragged more aggressively on, and for those listening, I know you're like, you're not on Twitter, but I just mean this as a gauge of sentiment on the left and what the left Democrat-aligned media is thinking at any given time. Twitter is a good ecosystem of that, meaning that you get a really good sense of what the New York Times editorial board and CNN producers and all the rest. If you spend enough time on Twitter, you really know what they think. And I have never had as many people come after me. Actually, that's not the only thing that comes close was the Brett Kavanaugh stuff, because I was like, she's lying.
Yeah.
I had CNN people sending me personal messages, text messages, being like, you're destroying your career. And I cannot say what I said back to them on the air, because that would be an FCC violation. But let's just say bring it was the mentality. But yeah, Clay, I think that they've realized now these are arguments that they cannot win with people equipped with the facts. That's what we've transitioned to.
And they pretend that they don't exist. That's one of the things that they do. They just pretend that argument doesn't exist anymore when they realize they're going to lose it.